One of your favorite authors, Jack Vance, completed the final volume in his Ports of Call series in 2004. He was 87. He says, how impressed are you by that accomplishment, and would you take the over-under on you beating that mark and finishing your own series? That's from Michael.
Well, you know, writers have written for far longer than even than Vance. I mean, Nigel Tranter, the great Scottish historical novelist, I think was still producing new works right up until his mid or late 90s. Jack Williamson, my own dear friend and colleague from New Mexico, was in his late 90s and still writing right up to the time of his death. So, you know, I hope to finish the Ice and Fire series much sooner than that, but then to go on to write many more books. Some set in Westeros and some set in the Wildcard universe, or a sequel to Fever Dream, which I've always thought of doing. Some ideas, my famous unfinished novel, Black and White and Red All Over, I'd like to get back to at some point. I have an idea that I've been wanting to write for years about a haunted movie palace called Now Showing at the Castle. You know, I have tons of things I'd like to do, and life is short, unfortunately, but I hope it will be long enough for me to do some of these. I have known a few writers who have retired. I cannot imagine ever retiring. Writing and being a writer is too much part of my identity and too much part of what I am. I don't know what I would do with all that time if I did stop writing, you know, play video games or something like that, watch a lot more television. It seems unlikely to me. I've always told stories, whether I could make my living from it or even when I was a little kid, just making up stories for the other kids in the neighborhood. And I think I'm going to continue to do that until the end.
Elizabeth and Lisa Orr ask, how do you presume to know the inner workings of such various types of characters, from Brienne to Samwell, Theon to Damp Hair? And how are you able to wrap your head around the thoughts and motivations of so many characters?
Well, I think the one thing that unites all of these people, as different as they may be in terms of age and sex and religious faith and whatever, is that they all are basically human beings. I write some characters who are like me, although none of them are precisely like me because I was not born into a medieval feudal society. I write characters who are, on the surface at least, very unlike me. But in every case, for the motivating emotional power, I have to look inward. I think all writers do that. You know, the only person we ever truly know is ourselves, and our hopes, our dreams, our fears, the things that haunt us at night. So I think you need empathy, and you need to remember that as different types of people may be, we're all share a common humanity and are not ultimately that different from each other.
Susan says, of course, I'm only partway through Volume 2 after having watched the HBO series and gotten hooked, but is Bran's paralysis mental rather than physical, and thus will he walk again? I don't know if you can answer that question.
Well, I won't answer the second half of it, but I will say his paralysis is physical.